It's Sunday, January 26, 2015. I'm Jimmy Fitzpatrick.
I'm Sydney Foster.
And I'm Trey Comstock. Put in your final orders because this is Tech's Last Call, episode 60. Your last call for Tech News of the Week. Tonight, Jimmy will pay anyone for palm mentions, Sydney beats down another music service, and I hack China to get the latest out of Apple. But we start tonight with, quite frankly, the strangest story that I have heard out of China in a very long while. Okay, so this is somewhat complicated and technical, but stay with me for a second. So for a brief time on Tuesday, 2/3 of Chinese internet traffic was routed through a small US-based company called Dynamic Internet Technology. Let's let that settle in for a second. 2/3 of the largest internet market in the world was routed through one very small U.S. company. Okay?
Where are they based?
They're in the story I read, their location was not disclosed because I'll get to that. It's run by a guy named Bill Zhai, and the site normally helps people get around the Great Firewall of China. Hence why he doesn't really want his location to be super known, because the Chinese would take issue with that. So, how is the same Great Firewall that was supposed to be blocking him instead sending 200 million plus users his way? Hacking? Anonymous? The US government? As far as we can tell, none of the above. It seems like the administrators of the Great Firewall messed up an update, and instead of continuing to block his domain like they normally do, they sent all of the traffic his way.
Fascinating.
At least that's what Jai thinks happened. We don't know. He's certainly not taking credit for any of this magical rerouting stuff, and actually he cites an instance in 2002 where something relatively similar happened.
Except with presumably a lot less people.
Well, and it was only like one site, but it was the same idea. Like, this is like a Falun Gong, which is a protest spiritual movement within China, guy now in the US running this like site to get around China's firewall. Then the firewall routes 200 million users his way. So, do we buy his story?
I'm sure he didn't do it, because I doubt. I mean, okay, so did it crash the server?
I mean, presumably. I have no idea. Yes.
Because if it crashed the server, then no, he didn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, from what it sounded like, they found out about this because people in China were complaining that they didn't have internet access.
That's just... It's so random.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those, it's so random it has to be true, because you just can't make that up.
Yeah, how do you write this? Like, and one of the points, I read a WSJ, Wall Street Journal, story on this, and one of the points that they bring up is like, hey, if you were planning like some great hacktivist thing, you might have thought of something better than just like rerouting to this one server that was going to crash.
Yeah, you would have rerouted
I'm
it to
stealing
like
your
people.
traffic.
Yeah, or you would have like actually gave them access to useful information or something, rather than just like, hey, we don't have internet access now, except it was in Chinese, and so I don't know what that sounds like in Chinese, but rather than doing a racist accent, I'll just say, imagine that previous voice in Chinese.
Right, exactly. I don't know. I think if you're going to do an actual activism thing, you'd reroute. Although, I guess, I don't know. But if it's just a stop blocking this site, instead send all of the traffic to it. I mean, I assume that American Google is one of the things that's blocked.
Yeah, absolutely. Google is
So
Twitter, Facebook.
That would be really easy to flip
the
that
normal
switch
stuff.
and be like, here, Google, have the internet.
Right. But no, it wasn't that. It was just like this poor guy, Bill Zhai, with Dynamic Internet Technology, which has been around since 2001.
Well, good for him.
You can, I mean, I
This is
just...
the most marketing he's ever gotten.
Yeah. I can only imagine what that tech support call sounded like. So,
There was a tsunami from China. I don't understand what you're saying. We got 200 million users.
How
Just
do you
like,
figure
it was heavy
that
traffic.
out? Like, how do you figure out what's going on in order to fix it? That's just crazy.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to imagine the scenario within the administrative structure of the Great Firewall of China. So, I mean, we all kind of work with content management systems, right? In posting the podcast or the blog or whatever. And so when you check certain boxes, it means different things. And so if you check this one box for this IP address,
Squarespace.
right. So you check this one box, it blocks the IP. If you check another box, apparently it reroutes the internet to that IP. Why those are on the same screen, I don't know. But I mean, like, how does this
Why is
happen?
that even an option?
Yeah, we don't.
Oh,
no
I'm
one
just
knows.
gonna click the reroute 2/3 of the internet button because that's one I use a lot.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
it's
I
an
mean,
important button, okay? It should be in red, and there should be a do not press.
Yeah, but it's China, so everything's in red. So maybe it needs to be in blue. Maybe the issue was it was in red. Because, of course, the Great
Everything-
Firewall of China is basically designed by Cisco. And so Cisco's like, oh, red button, that's bad. And China thinks, oh, red button, that's normal.
good.
That would, at least normal.
the red
Little red button, and they pressed it because they thought that looked right.
The
And
Tommy Lee, Will Smith. You remember the little red button I told you not to push? Push the
it.
little red button.
Yeah, but they put and then they rerouted the entire internet to one guy who's very much against what they're trying to do.
Okay, so really the problem is that Cisco misdesigned the red button. They should have designed it so it sent it all once again to Google. Actually, the NSA.
right. Well, no, that actually is
They know
probably what it
everything
actually.
anyways.
It's probably what it actually is. I mean, yeah.
The little red button that redirects to the servers in Washington.
But anyways, hack the world and all that. But speaking of things getting rerouted to Washington, okay, Redmond, but not DC. So what's Microsoft been doing, sort of?
Yeah, so apparently creating buzz on the internet is something that large companies cannot fake or manufacture. However, that doesn't stop Microsoft from trying something questionably moral. Microsoft
you look
signed
at
an
it.
advertising deal with YouTube video network Machinima
There you go.
to promote the Xbox One. Now, that in and of itself is not actually a problem.
Gaming website promoting gaming thing.
Exactly.
Sounds like what I
that
would
happens
love.
all the time. In the deal, the content creators would be paid $3 per 1,000 views for a video featuring 30 seconds of Xbox One gameplay and a mention of the Xbox One by name, and then some like obscure tag like XB1M13, so that it could be easily searched by that tag. However, according to the full legal agreement, the video makers cannot mention that they're being paid by Microsoft to create the videos, and they also cannot mention anything negative about either Microsoft or Machinima.
Now, my one question is, whose deal is that? So I've heard kind of conflicting things floating out there in the ether. Some have said, Paul Thurrott over at winsupersite.com has clarified that the deal about not mentioning that it was for Microsoft was on Machinima's end with their video producers. So Machinima is a big overarching network that has many contributors that are kind of
Yes, this is an agreement with Machinima because I just went to the.
so this is the
full-
this is the contributors agreement with Machinima, not Microsoft's agreement with Machinima.
Yeah, it says, as of today's date, you have agreed to work with Machinima Inc. to
Okay.
promote the Xbox One gaming console.
Okay, so it's
that is the press release that they're not press the
agreement.
legal agreement that they're referring to when they are talking about that.
right. So there's not a direct mention that Microsoft thought that this was going to be that there's a legal paperwork saying Microsoft thought this was going to be on the sly.
Right. Well, and this is really small potatoes for Microsoft. I'm getting there, but it's that Microsoft said they were only going to spend something like 1.25 million hits
Sure.
worth of. So if you do that times $3 a hit, it comes out to like $3,750, which is nothing.
That's
That is
nothing.
just like small potatoes compared to anything else. But anyway, so you can't say anything bad about either Microsoft or Machinima. Otherwise, you won't get paid. So, and you can't tell people that you're getting paid additionally to talk about Microsoft,
Which is journalistically troubling.
which is journalistically troubling. And actually, according to Ars Technica, who is the one that uncovered this story, could even violate the FTC guidelines for use of endorsements in advertising.
Maybe. Maybe.
It's well, and it's guidelines. They're not actually rules.
Guidelines rather than actual rules.
Exactly, and so it's about like how you handle endorsements and
And also what you claim to be.
right. And so, of course, Microsoft, this is a PR nightmare. So Microsoft has since tried to distance themselves from this mess, stating, quote, Microsoft was not, this was a to Ars Technica, they said, quote, Microsoft was not aware individual contracts Machinima had with their content providers as part of this promotion, and we didn't provide feedback on any of the videos. End quote. There was more to it, but in an ever-changing world of online advertising, how do we assure that the reviews and testimonials and everything that we're reading and receiving online are not biased by the companies that are willing to pay the highest dollar for positive advertising?
In short, find people you trust.
Consumer Reports is actually one that
or you look at folks that are starting to distance themselves from the advertising model. So there's now kind of two websites that I follow for gaming news and for tech news. So I follow giantbomb.com and I follow Daily Tech News, the Daily Tech News show with Tom Merritt. Both of them are experimenting with directly doing business with their users, right? So I pay Tom $5 a month, and I pay Giant Bomb $5 a month, and so
I didn't realize Tom was doing that.
Yeah, it's through Patreon.com something. You can Patreon. You subscribe. You can pledge. I'm giving him $5 a month because that's what I pay Giant Bomb. And Giant Bomb's been doing this for a long time, but that way you see no advertising on the site. Giant Bomb only has advertising if you're an unpaid subscriber, and then it's just pre-roll ads. And so I find content creators that I trust that associated with networks or this idea of maintaining their independence. And if I don't think, I follow like Game Informer, which is GameStop's wholly owned subsidiary game magazine. I don't believe their editorials at all. Now, maybe their editorials aren't full of it. I have no idea. They always seem remarkably positive to me because I think they're trying to sell me games. Because
realistically, they probably
it's
are.
It's a publication owned by GameStop. But I like it for it's like Playboy. I like it for the articles. And they get a lot of exclusive stuff because they are owned by GameStop. So they get a lot of exclusive preview of games and this kind of stuff. And so I like
you get it as part of that other
Yeah, and I spend a lot of money at GameStop. So it just comes with the amount of money I spend at GameStop. But I don't trust the reviews at all because I just assume, well, you are a publication owned by something that sells games. So that's like looking for, Nintendo hardware reviews in old school Nintendo power. Yeah, right. Okay. Journalistic integrity, my foot. That thing used to be based at Nintendo's headquarters. So, it's stuff like that. I just find content creators you trust. Like us, right? We are not paid in any way. In fact,
by anybody.
And I've thought about
if I think that something is crap, I'm going to tell you.
Right, and we have
TVs with your stupid motion control thing.
We're also kind of upfront about the products we like and the products we don't like. We tend to be pretty big fans of the Surface, and we seem to be relatively big fans of the Xbox.
And the Roku.
And some Apple products, and not some Apple products. And we hate on Samsung a lot, and I hate on EA a lot. And Call of Duty and a whole bunch of things, but no one's paying us to do these things. We actually like the products we like and dislike the products we dislike. And then that's all there is to it. We get some PR access occasionally, but not all that much and not all that often. So, look for independent news sites. With the internet, with, the dawning of Web 3.0 or 2.0 or whatever you want to call what we're doing now, there are plenty of small, independent content providers saying their honest opinion because they've got no one paying them to say otherwise.
But, so, Sydney, how do you think that, you have the problem with, blogger moms from
mommy bloggers, yes.
Where they were being paid to say, nice things about products. So can we really trust small sites to have journalistic integrity, as it were?
I think it's about developing a relationship is probably the wrong way of saying it, but that idea of, in the past, I know that this person has done XYZ, and for this reason, I feel that I can trust them. While you were going through the intro, I was thinking about something mildly unrelated, but just thinking about Goodreads. On Goodreads, they do a lot of book giveaways and pre-releases and that kind of thing. And, you know, anytime you get a book through the book giveaways, people will go on and they say, just FYI, I got this book for free. Here's my review. And so I think somebody who, you know, they have a history of stating up front when they did get paid or did get a product for free, if, you know, if they've told you that in the past, then that type of thing establishes credentials.
Well, and that's like on CNET, Lori Grunin is always very, very particular to mention, because she'll go to these events for like Olympus and for various camera manufacturers, and she's always like, CNET paid for my trip, Olympus gave me nothing.
Right.
Like I'm not being biased by being given things.
Well, and in games, I think is particularly tricky because the expectation for the most part is that the publishers provide the games for review. The publishers provide review hardware.
However, that means that theoretically, at least on the AAA titles, it's a level playing field because everybody is doing it.
Right, but
now it hurts indie games.
It hurts indie games. It hurts folks like us because we don't get the pre-release copies and stuff like that.
Also makes it easier to say like, oh yes, everyone should have to pay for everything, and used games suck, and
yeah,
yes,
and
you don't pay for the first iteration.
Right,
of the
and I
games.
think it does bias. It does, I think, bias a lot of game journalists against used games, because for us, used games is part of how we're able to do Game of the Year on the cheap. A story I tell in relation to this idea of independence in games journalism is you look at the story of Jeff Gerstmann, who is the kind of editor in chief at Giant Bomb. He was fired from GameSpot because he would not change negative review. And the GameSpot advertising whatever mechanism clamped down on him.
Well,
and
at that time, was GameSpot a part of CBSI?
It was after the CBSI merger. And it was a bunch of folks that didn't really understand games journalism, and he was reviewing Ratchet and Clank. And he gave it a terrible review. He gave it an absolutely panned it. And yet they had basically sponsored the site. And like there was backgrounds and like you could do custom characters and all this kind of like GameSpot was being heavily advertised by that publisher. And so the publisher said fire him. And at that point he was managing editor and he stood by the review and he got fired. And that's why he broke off and started Giant Bomb, where they tried to limit the involvement of advertisers in the site. Now, Giant Bomb is once again owned by CBSI, but trying desperately to maintain their independence even within that structure. So I look for content creators that have a very specific reason to maintain their independence. And it's just, get to know who's making your content. It's like local food, really. Get to know who's making your artisan small batch content.
Bespoke.
You
forgot bespoke. Hashtag stuff white people like.
Oh, excuse me. It was Kane and Lynch, not Ratchet and Clank. Jeff Gerstmann got fired for Kane and Lynch.
Hey,
Ratchet and Clank's
are
a
you
good game.
fact checking on podcasts?
It didn't sound right. I had to fact
What
check.
I knew is something and something. Come on.
Want us to...
They
Whatever.
both-
I was good with it. Let's do it. Whatever. Ratchet and Clank, Hammer and Anvil. I don't know. Let's do it.
Well,
So-
maybe Jeff Gerstmann liked Ratchet and Clank.
He does
I didn't
actually
want them
like-
to
he
get-
does actually like Ratchet and
Exactly.
Clank.
I didn't want them to get a bad rap.
Yeah, we don't want to align
Kane
or
and Lynch.
malign.
So, speaking of bespoke and curated content, what's going on with Beats?
Small batch.
So we mentioned that this was coming a while back, and now it's here.
Hey, look, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah,
There it is. There it goes. So a new subscription music streaming service arrived on the scene this week with the debut of the very creatively named Beats Music for iOS and Android.
Stick with boom, boom, boom. It's all bass.
Boom, 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 boom. I can keep
See,
going. I
who
can do
needs
this for
Beats
hours.
Music when you have Trey. So the service offers access to, they say, over 20 million songs that can be streamed online or downloaded to your device for offline use. Where Beats Music differs most significantly from its competitors is that there is not currently a free ad-supported version of the app. Not even a little bit.
There's a 7-day trial.
Right, so if you are interested in checking it out, you get your 7-day free trial, and then from there on out, you'll be paying your Netflix cost of $9.99 a month for all the Kesha your heart desires.
Netflix is $8 a month. I get
All right,
to watch
for more than
videos
Netflix, there you go.
Giant Bomb's only $5 a month.
We did not tell Netflix that everyone else is charging more money than them.
Don't listen, Netflix. Cover your ears.
Speaking.
So, kind of interestingly, Beats Music is not yet available for Windows Phone.
It will be coming soon.
Suck it, Windows Phone.
Well,
I mean,
yes. The thing is, the app for Windows Phone was supposed to launch on Friday, according to a tweet from, not just nobody, but actually the CEO of Beats Music, Ian Rogers. But if you look over at the Beats Music homepage now, you'll see that right now the only commitment we get for Windows Phone is that the app is coming soon. So I think it is significant that they went from it's coming on Friday to
I was going
it's
to show this too.
coming soon.
Well, no, I just ran the search in the App Store on Windows Phone, and it's not there.
Not in focus. Try again.
It's just notice that it's not. There's no Beats there.
Welcome to the internet.
If you're so if you're an
What changed
iOS or
this
Android
episode?
person,
I
you got to
understand.
shell out the money. If you're a Windows Phone person, sorry. So Jimmy and Trey, I know you both have played around a little bit with Beats Music so far. So can you give us a little bit more info about features, maybe how it differs a little bit from Pandora,
do you want to talk about
Spotify,
the
some of the
setup
other
process?
Yeah, I'll talk.
folks?
So
I'll talk about the sentence.
see, Beats is trying to do a way of surfacing music that you would be interested in. And so it tries different ways of algorithmically learning about you. So in the setup process, you pick a bunch of genres you like and a bunch of genres you don't like. And then you pick from a list seemingly random
Well, and then
generated.
based on the genres you picked, it gives you a list of and they're little bubbles of artists that you would like.
Right, and so you pick those, and then it surfaces a bunch of content for you to listen that you might be interested in listening to, and that was kind of hit or miss. For instance, punk rock never surfaced as an option for me. I really like punk rock.
And I
Probably
really like
just
Mumford
all
and Sons, but
filed
apparently
under
I have to,
alternative.
Right, but I think that also shows a bias of the service, right? For me, you don't, this is super nerdy, but you don't lump punk in with alternative. Those are, to me...
Right, those are different.
Those are as different as R&B and rap.
Well, and then you have weird genre. I always hate defining music by genre, though, because you have things like Mumford and Sons. It's folk rock. So is it folk? Is it rock? Is it indie? Is it what is it?
Right.
Technically,
What
it falls
do they
into all
think
three
it
of those
is?
categories.
Right, and more importantly, what does Dr. Dre think it is?
Whoever is actually curating the site.
Well, there's a
It's
whole bunch.
actually
They've actually
just
been
Dr. Dre.
actively hiring a whole bunch of curators and DJs and taste makers in music to build these playlists.
Now, it's a good idea because it helps solve that problem that Spotify and all of those things have with trying to compete with a Pandora. Pandora is all the algorithm.
Right.
Pandora is the Google of music. I mean, it's all the algorithm.
And this is, I think, trying to strike a
Get out
balance.
what you put in. Now, this is trying to skip that painful process of setting up a playlist. And
Right.
but one of the things that they're doing that I think is kind of interesting is they call it the sentence.
It's quite literally the sentence.
So mine, I'd set this up before we started the podcast, but mine, I don't know if you can see that, says I'm at my computer and I feel like playing with fire
Always.
by myself to seminal indie.
Right, and so you can kind of
The
pick,
second song it played though is "Smells Like Teen Spirit," which
which is not seminal or indie at all.
But
it
something
played
that
to
you
smell
would
like
listen to if you were lighting things on fire.
playing with
arguably.
fire.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave it on playing with fire.
And probably only if you were by yourself, because otherwise you'd be too embarrassed.
right, but also, how long is it going to take for fire burning to pop up? How long until that happens?
Well, and then
Until we are fire burning on the dance floor.
wow.
Yeah.
I'm so for the where am I? I'm at my computer in my crib,
Yep.
sick of being cold.
Yep.
That's very topical. Cooler
Preached
than
my
you,
sermon on that.
because it's Trey made this comment in our pre-show that this is a really douchey app.
Yes.
When it talks about
This is from the people who make the headphones. And this is very clearly from the people that make the headphones. You know those people.
Nominated is actually one of them
What'd you say?
in the future.
In the future. But it's
Glasses will adjust to changing light.
Yeah.
It was a very effective acting.
so I think it is a music app made by people who care about music. But it is a music app by people who care about music that I don't care about.
That's the genre that I personally don't listen to. So
Right.
it's not going to replace my Pandora, my $3 a month Pandora with their $10 a month service.
I'm an AT&T subscriber, and so I get like a 3-month free trial as opposed to 7 days or something.
And I'll play the hell out of it this week, and if it's actually worthwhile, I might write it up for the site. But
I mean, part of it is like what I come down to is I don't listen to that much music because I'm not Steve Jobs and I'm not that cool. I just don't listen to that much music. Most of what I'm listening to is audio podcasts, which are free by principle.
3-hour giant bomb podcast.
Yes, I'm almost done with them. I'm having to switch back to audiobooks a little bit because I've almost run out of back catalog of bombcasts. But that's neither here nor there. Like, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to ride out my AT&T free trial.
I listen to music every single day, and it's usually my Pandora. So I'll give this Beats Music thing a try. Maybe it'll be awesome. Maybe it'll crack the nut that Spotify and Google Music and Apple Radio have all not been able to crack.
Why? I think in theory it's great. It's a mixture of curation and a cool algorithm that tries to present it in a funky kind of way.
With a clever way of presenting it, but I don't know how effective it's going to be in the long run.
And also, I don't know how well they bridge the douchey, clever spectrum.
So really, $10 a month?
No, I mean, no. Just no. Don't do it.
There's an app that does this for free. It's called Songza.
Right.
And it also has a very similar, like, here's what time of day it is. Here are some things you might be doing.
It automatically curates for you. It says
right.
It's like,
but Beats
the
Music,
afternoon and I'm feeling whatever.
But also Beats Music has the like offline play. It has, you can just download things to your phone. Like there's a bunch of
straight up Spotify.
It's straight up Spotify merged with Pandora. Like it's amalgamation of those two things. I still like, I don't know. Honestly, if you're looking for a subscription music service, it's a blending of all these things. Look at Xbox Music. Now has an iPhone and Android app. Already on Windows Phone, on Xbox, on Windows 8, plays via the web.
Because that's the
on the
consideration of the old Zune music, right?
Right, but it's it's a fully.
Do I get my free song still? Can I still opt for that?
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember. But
it used to be Zune Music was $15 a month,
and you got 15 downloads.
And this thing was like, they've had this since 2008.
Oh, even longer. It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And it was you could listen to as many songs as you wanted online, and then you could download 5 songs. It's $10 a month basically, plus 5 song downloads.
Yeah,
for free.
I just never. I used to download a ton of music off of iTunes, and then I just kind of stopped.
And that was the way that they bridged the gap between the people that still wanted to own music. Like, look, you get 5 free downloads with this service, but I don't know how effective the service ever was because, let's be serious, I don't know how effective Zune sales ever were.
But it's the problem with Zune. Is like there was nothing wrong with Zune itself. Zune just missed timed. It was just at the wrong time.
Yeah,
what do we always say? That
2009 was the best product of 2006.
Right. The Zune HD was absolutely the best product of 2006 when it launched in 2009. It was a post-iPhone world, and we all looked and went, oh, that's cool, but apps? No apps? No? Oh.
What are you doing?
What? Oh, I'm sorry. Great hardware, but you're a software company. Figure it out.
Other great hardware and
software news. So we are probably months away from any actual new Apple anything, but the rumor mill is starting to spin up. The Wall Street Journal is reporting, quote, people said...
The people said...
This is a direct quote, guys.
Oh my gosh.
The people.
This is from mid-article. But
the
people. They're people.
Is this from... Les Mis?
The people said Apple plans an iPhone model with screens larger than 4.5 inches measured diagonally, and a second version with a display bigger than 5 inches. End quote. These will be supposedly, according to the article, will be aluminum-based designs like the 5S rather than the plastic-based designs of the 5C. Also, in other Apple news, 9 to 5 Mac is reporting that Apple will be releasing an updated Apple TV set-top box in the first half of 2014. Most importantly with this model may include an app store with, like, motion gaming content. No news that there'll be
How
any sort of...
little do I care?
It's the news. So, as ever, on our scale of 1 to 5S, how excited are we about this latest brace of Apple rumors? Jimmy, 1 to 5S.
I don't give two shits.
Okay, so that's nod 1. Sydney, 1 to 5S.
Can I just make a Brad Shoemaker noise and abstain? Comment.
Okay, so
Okay, no, okay.
in
all
all honesty,
though,
the 4 to 5 inch iPhone, 4.5 to 5 inch iPhone, I'm super stoked.
interesting.
I'm super stoked about that.
We
I
all
want
know that you've been waiting for that.
Exactly. That is exactly
updated
what I've been waiting
Apple
for.
TV set-top box.
I don't like change.
I
and I
don't
don't like
care.
big phones.
I think it is
This my
interesting.
not caring face.
I think it is interesting, given the amount of revenue that Apple makes off of gaming and the gaming market that has grown up on iOS, for that to move to the living room interface. I think that is an interest. This will be Apple's first game system in like 20 years. They had a game system before. Look it
Possibly
up.
the first successful one.
It was a terrible failure, but it exists. It's very collectible if you want to buy one.
Before too, it was also a terrible failure.
Right? Yeah. But they sort of,
And a smartphone too, right?
Yeah,
Newton.
that was a Palm Pilot, and that was, lives on in many forms. So, I mean, we think of Apple as nonstop hits, but there's plenty of flops mixed in there, their gaming console being one. Who knows how much of a difference it's going to be. Roku technically plays games. Hey, Jimmy, how often do you play games in your Roku?
I have, there's Angry Birds.
Yeah, I know, so I've been told.
It's on the Roku. I just never play.
Right,
it.
but I mean, this is the...
It was free. That was the thing. It came with it free, and I never play it.
Right, and this
I
is
think that it makes sense as if you're kind of throwing the app from your phone to the TV,
Yeah.
playing it on a bigger screen.
Maybe. No.
Or like a multiplayer. No, actually, no. That's not what it is. A multiplayer thing where you're using multiple iPhones or iPads in the room, and you're using the TV as the common interface between them. That could
Maybe.
be interesting.
But that's like a ton of design. I mean, that is like assuming you're going to make an app specifically to work on this thing.
Well, but there are multiple. Okay, so there are already games that are multiplayer games,
Right,
Where you
yeah,
have
sure.
iPads for that.
Yeah. But that's still a huge programming leap to go from 2 separate screen games to 2 separate screens and a shared screen. I mean, that's not an insignificant act of programming.
Yeah, but it would be awesome.
Awesome, yes, but the Ouya was awesome in principle. I thought at once when I
bought one. Okay,
when I bought it and then didn't, and didn't take delivery of that thing. I mean, this probably just falls in the Ouya hole of there aren't iOS. If I want to play a game that's not an iOS game on a television, I have an Xbox One or any number of other things. And this, if I already have an Apple TV and it just happens to play games, fine. But luckily, they're not, unlike the Ouya, they're not trying to pitch this as primarily a gaming thing. Gaming is just a tacked on feature, and that's fine.
Now here's the thought: are they going to try to go for the Chromecast Roku streaming stick form factor? Maybe.
No.
Do you think that they're going to try to do something like that?
I haven't heard any rumors of a redesign. I'm presumably it's just going to be a hockey puck again.
Yeah, well, because the existing one is just a hockey puck.
It's just a hockey puck. It's not a bad-looking hockey puck. It's an innocuous-looking hockey puck.
It's a totally vanilla-looking hockey puck.
Do you want to know what looks ridiculous when that hockey puck has an HDMI cable coming out of it? That looks silly. Because the HDMI cable is so big compared to the hockey puck that I think it looks bad, but that's just
Are you talking about the Apple TV?
The Apple TV.
Yeah.
When you hook an HDMI cable up to it, just looks silly.
So the Roku 2 had this fun feature where it was so light. They kept making it lighter and lighter. It was so light that when you plug the HDMI cable in, it would hang off the back. Yeah. So you'd have your
you have to stick it down.
Your hockey puck would just be sticking up in the air. It was just so dumb.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb. I mean, for me, the big news here, not the Apple TV, but that the iPhones are finally getting the screen sizes it should have.
Now, my question is, if it's going to be larger than 5 inches, are we going to go 5.2 and put the buttons on the back?
Yeah, no.
LG G2 style?
I think it is going to be probably that 5.3 inch, like the Vita has, like the original Note had. That's probably the form factor it's going to be.
I think we'll be at 5.2. I think that's because the G2 doesn't look, because I have whatever. I have the G2 by any other name.
Sure.
That's a 4.95 inch screen. And then you put this next to the G2, and G2 doesn't look that significantly bigger.
Right.
But it does have the stupid buttons on the back.
So what I'll be interested in is pricing. How is this going to fall out? My bet is that the 4.5 inch goes for 200,
$150 off contract for these things. So
goes for 200 and then 300 for the 5-inch screen. So am I just budgeting $300? Because we know the one I'm getting. The one that's going to make my hands look ridiculous.
Yeah, you're going to get the phablet.
I'm going to get the phablet. I'll have to
shaking my head.
I'll have to move away from my book based lifestyle, but I'm going to get the phablet.
Shaking my head at you.
But would they actually do that? Because your problem you're presented with that is that you now have a $300 iPhone when you only ever had a $200. The top price.
That's not true. What did the original? What did the Silverback launch for?
Well, okay, no, ignore that because that was off contract.
What did the Silverback launch for?
It was unlocked off contract.
It was not unlocked. There was only one carrier that would carry it. It was not unlocked.
GSM though.
It was GSM, but it was locked to AT&T. And in fact,
it was sold unsubsidized.
It was sold unsubsidized, yes. Okay. But it was not unlocked.
Unsubsidized for $550.
Yeah, and then they had to give folks $100 back because they screwed up.
And then and now since it's been subsidized since the iPhone 3G.
Sure, but I think the base phone, the 4.5 inch, will be $200.
But we've established that the base phone is the $100 phone.
No, but the plastic phone. Look, Johnny is gonna get wheeled out for his once yearly appearance, and he's gonna convince us that this is the premium phone. The new premium is the 4.5 inch screen. We've crafted out of aluminium like no one's ever seen before, using a process I can't even pronounce. That's gonna be the video, right? And so it's just me. And then we have the even super premium, only issued in gold 5-inch one. Whatever.
It's gonna look like the iPad Mini with Retina kind of form factor.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to look...
The 5.3 inch one.
I just can't wait to see it.
The 4.5 is going to look like the existing 5S with the Touch ID. But then, how do you...
No, it's a form factor change here. It's going to look a little different.
Well, no, it'll look a little different, but I don't think it'll look significantly different. I think that
it's going to look it's going to look significantly different as much as iPhones ever look significantly different.
But if you look at the iPad 4th generation to the iPad Air, there was a significant design change.
The bezel went away. The bezel went away.
I think that we're going to go to that on the 4.5 and 5 inch, but I don't know. It'll.
So from mobile technology,
way too much talk.
So from mobile technology of the future to mobile technology of the past, we're going to pour one out in this week's Last Call. So Jimmy, tell me about this. Sing a sad song.
We pour a little out for Palm this week, who's been sliced, diced, and once again sold. This time to Qualcomm for an undisclosed price. The sale involved the last remnants of HP's $1.2 billion acquisition of Palm. And it doesn't include WebOS, which they already sold to LG.
Which they're putting in televisions now.
But it does include 1,400 U.S. patents and another 1,000 patents from other countries. But my biggest question is why? What is the point of? Because it's not even the entire patent portfolio that HP had bought from Palm. And then why did HP buy Palm in the first place?
Right. Well,
why did you have to break my heart, Palm?
Right. And you want to know, Palm made two mistakes. Two mistakes with the Pre. They released it too slowly, and they put the wrong processor in it.
They were both because of slowness. They released it too slowly, and the phone was
too slow. And besides that, it was one of the best phones. It was the best phone operating system of its time.
Well, I didn't like the keyboard, but
I mean the keyboard. That's more a matter of taste. People have lived with worse. The iPhone, for instance. Okay, people have lived with worse if the user experience was that good, and they had the operating system was wonderful. It was ahead of its time. People are still cribbing ideas from it. You look at modern iOS, and it's basically card-based. All the card-based stuff.
Card-based iOS 7.
iOS 7, the Vita OS, Windows Phone 7. Basically, we've all been moving vaguely towards WebOS for a while. Qualcomm is heavily involved in the mobile market, and HP keeps talking like they're going to get back into the mobile market, but clearly not that seriously if they're selling off a whole bunch of mobile patents.
I think this is like cutting and running. Like, okay, this was dumb. Why did we do
Yeah,
this?
why did you? Great. I mean,
Seriously, why did you do it, HP?
I'm not a huge fan of HP. I'm
HP,
just
don't
not.
go breaking my heart, okay?
No, HP done broke my heart 10 years ago. Like, I'm just not surprised now.
Don't go breaking my heart. I
They
have
broke-
envy for you breaking my heart.
They broke my heart when the laptop that was less than a year old died of overheating itself. And then I realized that HP was pointless. And on that note, it's probably time to end because we're not going to be getting a sponsorship from HP after all. Thank you so
HP,
much.
please send your sponsorship to
Podcast at textlesscall.com, facebook.com/textlesscall, or at textlesscall on the Twitters. Programming note, there will be the first official episode of T4. Techie is Talking Tech tonight.
and it's not safe for work.
It's not safe for work. That will air live Monday night, and then we'll go up in the feeds Tuesday morning. However you find us, you'll be seeing us on the interwebs. Good night.
You are so fabulous.
Just dangerous.
I hurt itself. Just the call.
Just got a bomber sometimes.
Get your bomber out of my face.
Really?
Speaking of not safe for work.